Welcome to Breaking News to Trading Moves. Imagine needing the electrical output of the Hoover Dam just to teach a computer how to read.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like science fiction, but that is exactly the reality we are facing right now.
It really is. So, you are tuning in today as we look at a new long-term agreement between Broadcom and Google regarding custom artificial intelligence chips.
Right. And it is a very notable development for the entire hardware space.
Exactly. The goal of our conversation is to examine the details of this headline and identify the specific market winners and losers that emerge from the specific hardware and cloud capacity development.
Right. We are just looking directly at the facts of the announcement and figuring out exactly who benefits or faces pressure here.
Exactly. We're sticking strictly to this headline and the specific winners and losers for you. So, what are the core facts we are looking at?
Well, the details lay out a very clear timeline. Broadcom has essentially signed a long-term agreement with Google to develop and supply future generations of custom AI chips.
Right. And there are other components involved too, correct?
Yeah, exactly. It includes other components for Google's next-generation AI racks. And the big detail here is that this agreement extends through the year 2031.
Wow, through 2031. I mean, product cycles in this space are usually so much shorter.
Oh, absolutely. Usually it is measured in months, so this is a major commitment. And there is a second part of the headline to add here. Broadcom also signed a deal tied to Anthropic's access to about 3.5 gigawatts of AI computing capacity.
3.5 gigawatts. That is just an immense amount of power.
It is. And that specific capacity will use Google processors starting in the year 2027. So looking at the market reaction, Broadcom shares rose about 3% in extended trading after this announcement.
Which makes sense. So let us get into the direct winners here.
Right. The direct winners, specifically the custom AI chip leaders, are Broadcom, ticker AVGO, and Alphabet, ticker GOOGL.
Got it. AVGO and GOGO. So what is the exact reasoning there?
The reasoning is that this deal is a direct validation of the custom chip model. I mean, it is showing that Google is committing for years to its own AI hardware roadmap.
Is this custom chip model similar to a massive restaurant chain deciding to build its own dedicated bakeries instead of buying bread from a general supplier?
Yeah.
It takes years of commitment, but benefits the specific partners building that exact supply chain.
Yeah, that is a perfect way to visualize it. It is exactly like that.
Right. And, because Anthropic requires 3.5 gigawatts of power to run its systems, our conversation really needs to move directly to where else this expanding compute demand is being supported across cloud platforms.
Yeah, we have to look there because Anthropic's demand is just accelerating at an incredible rate.
Huh.
To handle it, they actually run their AI, Claude, across Google TPUs, AWS Trainium, and NVIDIA GPUs.
Okay, so they are not locked into just one hardware ecosystem.
No, they spread it out. However, Amazon remains Anthropic's primary cloud provider.
Since Anthropic relies on Amazon as a primary provider, but is also running on Google TPUs and NVIDIA GPUs, does this confirm that compute demand right now isn't a zero-sum game, but rather an across-the-board expansion?
Yes, it absolutely confirms that. And that brings us right to the winners in the AI cloud capacity category.
Okay, who are the winners we are looking at there?
The winners here are Amazon, ticker AMZN, and Oracle, ticker ORCL.
All right, AMZN and ORCL, Oracle, is a notable one to include.
Yeah, because this headline supports the view that AI compute demand is still expanding across all major U.S. cloud platforms, right?
Yeah.
Oracle has been aggressively building out dense AI clusters to catch that demand.
Because the baseline requirement for compute is just rising universally?
Exactly. Amazon handles the primary load, but the baseline requirement for everyone is just going up.
Well, all these new custom AI systems and expanding cloud capacities, they require physical support structures to actually operate.
Oh, 100%. As hyperscalers scale up these custom AI systems, they absolutely need more networking, more switching, servers, and, just all the supporting infrastructure.
Because you can have the best chip in the world, but if it has a data bottleneck, the whole system stalls out, right?
Exactly. The parallel processing requires everything to share data constantly. So the winners lifted by this sentiment around data center expansion are Arista Networks, ticker ANET, and Supermicro Computer, ticker SMCI.
If the custom chips from Broadcom and Google are the engine of a car, these networking and server companies are the transmission and the axles required to actually put that horsepower onto the road.
That analogy hits it right on the head. Arista Networks, ANET, they build the high-speed Ethernet switches that ensure the data arrives without bottlenecks.
Right. And what about Supermicro Computer? That is SMCI.
They handle the physical environment. When you run 3.5 gigawatts of power, You create a literal inferno of heat.
So they are doing the specialized liquid cooling systems to stop the racks from melting down.
Yeah, exactly. That physical architecture is just as critical as the chip itself.
That makes a lot of sense. So, having covered the winners, we should logically steer the conversation to the other side of the trade. If custom in-house silicon is winning here, who faces pressure?
Well, you have to look at why demand for custom chips has surged. It is precisely because businesses are seeking alternative to expensive graphics processors.
Right, the standard off-the-shelf options.
Exactly. So the losers in this context, facing the merchant GPU competition pressure, are NVIDIA, ticker NVDA, and Advanced Micro Devices, ticker AMD.
But wait, are they actually losing their sales today because of this Broadcom news?
No, and I want to clarify that. GPU demand does not disappear because of this news. Hyperscalers are still buying plenty of them right now.
Okay, so what is the actual pressure point?
Rather, this custom silicon trend pressures sentiment around their future pricing power and their share of the customer's wallet.
So for NVIDIA and AMD, it's not necessarily about losing current sales today, but rather investors reconsidering how much pricing power those companies will have in the future if hyperscalers have their own cheaper alternatives.
Yes, exactly. It caps the pricing ceiling. And we also have another category of losers here with less direct exposure.
Okay, who falls into that less direct category?
Marvell Technology, ticker MRVL, and Qualcomm, ticker QCOM.
MRVL and QCOM. So how are they negatively impacted by a Google deal?
It is all about capital rotation. Traders may rotate their capital into the clearest, most direct beneficiaries of Google's specific TPU and custom AI rack buildout.
Oh, I see. Because institutional fund managers have finite capital.
Right. They literally have to sell other chip stocks to free up the dollars, leaving these adjacent semiconductor names less favored on this specific headline.
Wow, it is just a zero-sum game for the portfolio managers. Well, the conversation moves from the immediate semiconductor competition to the broader hardware market now. We should look at who gets ignored when capital expenditure focuses entirely on next-generation AI.
Yeah, and that identifies our final losers here, the legacy IT hardware names. Specifically HP, ticker HPQ, and Xerox, ticker XRX.
HPQ and XRX, regular enterprise hardware getting left behind.
Exactly. Here is the reasoning. When a headline like the Broadcom-Google deal reinforces spending on next-generation AI infrastructure, the market prefers the companies tied directly to that specific growth cycle.
Because a corporate CIO only has so much budget for the year, right?
Right. They cannot just print new money. As a result, the market overlooks slower growth legacy hardware players because their enterprise deals might get delayed.
It sounds like capital expenditure enthusiasm acts a bit like a spotlight on a stage. When it shines entirely on next-generation infrastructure, the legacy hardware companies are simply left in the dark.
That is a great way to summarize the dynamic. The money just flows away from desktop computers and office printers.
It really puts the whole hardware ecosystem into perspective. As companies like Google successfully implement their own custom silicon, will the primary buyers of standard off-the-shelf graphics processors eventually become their own suppliers, thereby creating a permanent ceiling on the massive profit margins currently enjoyed by merchant GPU makers?
Yeah, that is definitely the question everyone has to keep in mind moving forward.
Please remember that this is not financial advice or buy or sell recommendations. This is purely the opinion of the author.